What's up, everybody? We're back.
Yeah. Hey, welcome back to the Metalhead's Journey. Hey, we've made it back around to the top 20 hair metal / glam metal albums of all time. I know you guys, this is your favorite list. Every week we get to do this. We've made it to lucky number 13 here. This is Twisted Sister with the album Stay Hungry. We'll go do a quick history of the band and the album and get right into it here. Twisted Sister formed in 1972 as an American heavy metal band from New Jersey. Twisted Sister is generally regarded as a glam metal band, but have also been called a shock rock band. Despite being classified as a glam metal band, there were many fans and critics that compared them to other bands from the new wave of British heavy metal. Twisted Sister could also appeal to the thrash crowd. They had Metallica opening for them in the 80s, and other thrash bands like Anthrax and Overkill have covered some of their songs. Despite many early lineup changes, the band finally found what would be known as their classic lineup. This featured Dee Snider on vocals, JJ French and Eddie Fingers Ojeda on guitars, Mark the Animal Mendoza on bass, and AJ, I couldn't get a nickname, Pero on drums. Twisted Sister has released... Yeah. I mean, come on, Dave. I mean, I was just trying to run this guy down. You didn't have to also throw that in there and make me feel bad about it.
I did.
Twisted Sister has released 6 studio albums, including their most recent album, released in 2016, which is called what, Jason?
No idea.
A Twisted Christmas. The band was inducted into the Metal Hall of Fame, not the Rock and Roll, but the Metal Hall of Fame in 2023, and have sold more than 12 million records.
Crazy.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, when they played that show at the Metal Hall of Fame, they had old Mike Portnoy playing drums for them since AJ Pero was dead. So cool little side nugget there. Stay Hungry, released in 1984. God, that makes this album 40 years old.
I was 10 years old.
Yeah, I was born in 84, so there you
I wasn't
go.
alive.
Yeah.
Me either.
That's good for you guys. This is band's 3rd studio album. The album contains the band's 2 signature songs, We're Not Gonna Take It and I Wanna Rock, both of which remain a staple of 80s glam metal and rock. Stay Hungry is the band's most successful release by far and their only platinum album. Eventually, the album achieved multi-platinum status in the U.S. with sales of more than 3 million certified copies by 1995. This album produced 3 singles. We're Not Gonna Take It, I Want to Rock, and then what else? What do you think?
The Price.
I don't
Good
know.
call, Jonah. The Price.
I read it earlier.
There you go. All right, Jonah, kick us off here. What you think about the record?
So, coming into this, especially when you look at the singles, like the singles that are on this album, I have kind of a similar feel about it as last week's album, even though I wasn't there for the review. These songs have been played probably thousands, tens of thousands of times in my lifetime. These 2 songs in particular.
So did that give you a preconceived notion of what you thought this album was going to be?
A little bit. But I'm happy to say that I was pleasantly, not surprised, but I guess for lack of a better word, delighted with what I did get with the album. I really enjoyed it. And I didn't know that other people also felt the same way about the kind of sound of the album being much more new wave British heavy metal, because I definitely picked up on that, especially in like The Beast, for example. I mean, obviously the title of the track is The Beast, so that kind of gives some allusions to like Maiden and whatnot. But yeah, I definitely got big time Priest and Maiden vibes on the album. There are a couple of songs that are a little bit more like stereotypically hair metal, perhaps, but I think they pulled it off really well. And on top of that, for my own personal biases, which we all have, there's a couple of songs on here in particular that have connotations that tie them to like other things, movies. So that did kind of give it a more positive light for me. In particular, whatchamacallit, Burn in Hell is in Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Yeah.
And then of course I Wanna Rock is heavily featured in the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, but with slightly altered lyrics. So
yeah, for sure.
I can't help but think of those 2 movies when I hear these songs, and they didn't negatively affect my opinion whatsoever. But yeah, I mean, just overall, I really enjoyed the album. The first time I listened to it, I think I listened to it 3 times in a row because it's a pretty easy listen. And when I had it on repeat just because I was doing stuff throughout the day in the house. And yeah, when it started over, I didn't feel like anything had dragged on necessarily. Like it was a pretty easy listen all the way through. So, all that to say, overall, my thoughts are pretty positive on the album. I thoroughly enjoyed it, I think.
Jason, what'd you think?
Well, first off, let me just say I'm sorry
Okay.
to Dee Snider and Twisted Sister and anybody who's a fan of Twisted Sister. I did come in with a preconceived notion. I was 10 years old when this came out. I remember the 2 hits from this album being on MTV. Back when MTV used to actually play music videos, I remember them always being on. And in my head, I thought Twisted Sister was a mock band. More not taking themselves seriously, just kind of for fun and games. No idea what any of the rest of their catalog listened to, or any of their songs sounded like at all. I was shocked. I had absolutely zero expectations. In fact, they were pretty low actually. So it's not even zero. I had below the zero line. Expectations for this. Was not looking forward to listening to this album. Thought I was going to have to force myself to listen to it. And to be completely honest, I was hoping that we would postpone this until next week so I could have another week with it. I thoroughly enjoyed this album. And besides maybe one song on here that I consider a skipper, I listened to this start to finish pretty much nonstop.
Man,
Sounds
like
it
Jason's
was a lot
got
of
another
fun.
9 coming in.
Whoa. Pump your brakes.
Dave, what'd you think? You're traditionally the hardest on the hair metal list here.
Yeah, I am, and I would, just echo a lot of what Jonah said, and some of what Jason said. I did also have some preconceived notions of this album. Like most of us or all of us, I feel like I only really knew it from We're Not Gonna Take It and I Wanna Rock. And I don't dislike either one of those songs. Like they're good, like they're classics or whatever. For me, especially I Wanna Rock, just like Jonah, like, I grew up with SpongeBob and stuff. So I do have a soft spot for that song, but it's a good song. And so I thought this was going to be, 10 songs of that. And I was going to be like, okay, well, let's see what this is all about. Let me prepare myself. And man, pleasantly surprised. I will use the term surprise since Jonah used delighted. I was pleasantly surprised. This is way more new wave of British heavy metal influence than I was expecting. And it almost, and I don't know if this is true, and it's whatever. If you want to put in the comments whether I'm right or wrong or whatever, that's fine. It almost gives the impression that they released their 2 singles or crafted their 2 singles kind of as a means to an end, like to get get
people in the door.
Yeah, to get people in the door, to get those singles out there, to sell records and put people in seats, right, as they say. And then but most of these other tracks actually are just legitimately, if you took away the name and the image, these could slide in pretty much with any other new wave of British heavy metal band out there, to varying degrees of success. I really enjoyed this record. It was an easy listen, like Jonah mentioned. There's no absolute true full skippers for me on this album either.
Wow.
I did enjoy it from start to finish, and I'm very, very happy that we ran into this one.
Yeah, I'm not gonna repeat everything you guys said, but I feel exactly the same as all of you. I certainly came into this with a very preconceived notion of this is almost going to be like Quiet Riot, like we did, like Come On Feel the Noise a little while back, and then kind of the rest of that album was a little bit of a letdown.
Yep.
Um,
That's a good
and
comparison.
so, yeah, so I kind of had that in my head going into it, and then hearing the other songs around these two songs was like, oh, like I don't know, this sounds bad, but I was like, man, these guys, this is like a real band.
Yeah.
Like this isn't like some gimmick or something like that, right? Like,
Yeah, like
look,
what I
yeah, right. It's going back to Extreme, and like they have Nuno Betancourt in there, who's a great player, but other than that, like Extreme's a joke band. So
Sorry,
in
fans.
my opinion, right? When you're saying Lil Jack horny, like get out of my face with that, like. And seeing like and my really besides the two songs, my only exposure to this band has just been Dee Snider, who is clearly the most popular person from this band, and he's still a public figure and pops up over time and various pop culture things, right? And seeing him and never really necessarily being annoyed or whatever by him, but it just always having this. He just always had this appearance where it's just like you kind of like.
You dismiss him a little bit.
You think you have an idea of what this guy is, and you hear the vocals on those other two songs, and you think, well, this guy can't. He's obviously not a good singer because those two songs really don't convey, like, don't show like his singing ability. They're just yelling songs.
Yeah.
Right.
But then you get into songs, like Don't Let Me Down, The Beast, right? The Price.
Even Stay Hungry, like the opener for me at least,
Yeah.
like was an immediate
Oh yeah,
like it was like an aha moment, like
Yes.
Like, dude, I got through that song, and that's the first time I texted you guys where I was like, oh, I said, I think we're in for a treat for this, like a few weeks back when I texted you guys about this album, and I got all the way through it, and I was like, yeah. But that's just going to parlay into my MVP for me. I think it's an obvious choice for me right now is Dee Snider. It's not necessarily that the vocals are that much better than the guitar work, but Dee Snider is the only person given songwriting credits for the entire album. So he wrote the entire album.
So there is some controversy there. I'm glad you brought that up.
Who else are you supposed to give it to? Is Dee Snider.
So according to Fingers, Eddie Fingers Ojeda. Yep. According to him, and this is like a fairly recent interview, and I'll try not to take too much time, but I did read that he has stated in the past, like D was a half decent guitar player, but not really that good. Like he's good enough to come up with a melody, and so what would often happen is D would write the lyrics, and he would go to Fingers with like a generic or basic melody, and Eddie would basically take that bass and turn it into what became the actual song. And then obviously Eddie wrote the guitar solos. But D would always just put that he was the, person, he'd always like kind of take the credit for that because he came up with the original melody. And the rest of the band just never fought it because they just didn't want the drama. And I'm paraphrasing. There's more to the story, but that's generally speaking what it is they've just never, they were successful. They were making money. They just didn't want the drama in the band. So they never pushed the issue.
That being said, Dee Snider's your MVP or what?
He is. Look, no, I just wanted to get that story out there because in case somebody in the comments says, well, actually, I wanted to go ahead and just get ahead of that.
You just wanted to do the actually yourself?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just to show that we did some moderate amount of research, right? But yeah, no, it is Dee Snider. I do think he is a worthy frontman. He can sing really well, actually. As showcased, I think his best showcase is The Price. That's just my take on that. But I like all the songs, even the I Wanna Rock. Like just the when he says that phrase in the song, like I wanna rock. Like, dude, it's iconic. I mean, he sounds really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, Dee Snider.
Yeah, it's a Dee Snider sweep, but I think
For sure.
at least for me, it's absolutely Dee Snider. I don't think when you this is one of the few albums that we've reviewed where I've actually tried to listen to the actual lyrics because there is actually a lot of meaning uh, behind a lot of the lyrics that he writes. He's not just writing about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. A lot of the songs have a meaning or a story. I didn't realize until basically just an hour or so ago when I was doing a little bit of research that Captain Howdy and Street Justice are actually a two parts. So
Yeah.
the Captain Howdy is the first part, and then Street Justice is the second part. So there's just one long story split into two.
Yeah,
But
on the original release, it's a single track.
yeah,
They're
Yeah.
thank
listed as a
goodness
single
they,
track.
thank goodness
And
they.
and just to let
Yeah.
everybody know out there, we listened to the remastered version
That came out
Um,
in
to try and-
2024.
to try and save ourselves from the terrible production of the original. Well, I did listen to the original a little bit too, so I can compare the two. Jonah, D. Snyder.
Yeah, D. Snyder. I mean, he's one of those kind of ultimate frontman guys. Like when you think Twisted Sister, you think of D. Snyder in the full getup, and obviously that's part of the whole glam slash
Yeah.
you know
Well,
metal appeal about it. So
speaking of the whole get up, we're going into the album art here. So I mean, D. Snyder is in full Twisted Sister regalia
Yeah.
on the front of this album with a giant.
Bone?
I mean, it looks like it's like some giant femur or something like that, man. Jonah, what you got for the album art and the album title?
So for the album title, I think I'm gonna give it an 8.5. I think it's a solid title, especially when the title track is the opener and it's such a solid track as well. So that definitely helps. And then as far as the album art, it's more or less a photograph.
Yeah, but it's a
I don't
good
know.
photograph.
Yeah, no,
It's got-
definitely.
and it's got the band on there and with bone
Yes.
font.
Yeah, so if we're just going off of, I guess, everything tying together, I think it all ties together really well. The bone implies that I guess he's been eating, whatever. The art, I'm gonna just give it a 7.5.
Fair enough. Yeah, I like the album title. I gave it a 7.5. And I gave it that just kind of based off again the strength of the title track being there, right? We've done some other ones like Wild Honey, what a piece of crap. Where the title track is just trash. And there was an album before that was like that too. I can't remember. But anyway, so good title track on here. I think the album title works. 7.5. Album art, I gave it an 8.8. This is just over the top. D. Snyder in the full, shoulder pads, the hair, the makeup, eating a giant, what appears to be a human bone or something of some kind.
It's like a cow bone or something.
It's
Yeah,
probably
I
a
don't
cow
know.
femur.
I don't know, dude. Let me look. This
It's
thing,
humongous.
it's ridiculous. And I loved it. The first time I saw it, I was like, dude, I love this album cover. So I gave it an 8.8. Jace,
Go
Go
ahead.
I'll
ahead.
jump in. Title, I gave it a 7.5 as well. Not just because the title track is actually good, but just because the band, they have a message, that they're trying to convey, and it's that they're not resting on the laurels. As far as the cover art, I gave it a 6.5. It's literally just him and a drop cloth right behind him.
I mean, that's all you were for a long time. Now you got this stupid weight set behind you.
Well, I'm not putting that on the album cover.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm kind of there with Jason a little bit as far as the album cover. As far as the album title, I went 7.75, basically for the same reasons. It's good. It's a good title. It's not it's not changing my life, but good solid title. I like it. I went 6 on the album cover, and a lot of my negative points come from the fact that it's just D. Snyder up there. I don't like that. I get it, whatever.
He wrote the music.
Sure, I get all that, but I don't like.
Sure.
I mean the band
Sure
is
he
not
did.
called D. Snyder, right? It's not a solo project, right? So, I don't like that. So
It's okay when Radke does it, though.
It's not. He's
No.
terrible. He's a terrible artist. Actually, it's probably
He's a genius,
good.
Dave.
Actually, it's probably good. I don't think his band wants to be associated with that record. They just want their paychecks.
Yikes.
But no, yeah, I mean, the album's cool. The album art is fine. I just wish the other members of the band are on there. And what's funny is there's a photo shoot, and this is probably in the like inner part of the album, like of
The book
of the book or whatever. They were there. Like you can Google,
I mean,
Stay Hungry photo shoot, and all 5 of the band members are there, and they're in full.
I bet all 5 of the band members agreed that this was the superior album cover.
Okay, but let's be honest.
I mean, who knows?
Everybody else's makeup wasn't
in his
terrible. Was terrible.
I mean, yeah, it was. He was the only one that was absolutely like,
looking the part.
Yeah. He was presentable.
Anyway,
we talked about production earlier. So we did originally, when we first started listening to this, we were listening to the original album, the 40-year-old album.
Not good.
And then we discovered that there was a remastered version from this year, so we switched to that midway through.
Last
year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Actually.
Sorry. Oh, hey, by the way, everybody, Happy New Year. Today's the 1st. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, for as far as anybody else here knows, it's going to be January 1st, 2026 by the time this comes out. But Dave, why don't you start? Why don't you take us through production, Dave?
Okay,
Yeah.
so the production of the original album is not good, as we mentioned. It sounds terrible. The 2024 remaster is leagues better. I think if like just judging it based on, if I had to judge it based on the old version, it'd be like a 3. It's terrible. It does the album no favors, in my opinion. And you could say all you want to, like, oh, if you grew up with it, like, I don't care. It does. I don't want to listen to it ever again. The remastered version is very good. I think it's a solid 8. Is it the best production in the entire world? No, but I mean, it does wonders for this album, so it gets an 8 for me.
I'll jump in real quick, only because I'm extremely on par with Dave. I actually did give the OG a production value of 3.5. It was so bad in my vehicle. My vehicle's car stereo is max. Volume is 60. And at 60, this was still not loud.
Yeah, but Jason, so at 60, did you have it on? Why am I blanking here? Did you have it on Street Justice going into I Wanna Rock?
I made it to through the first 4 tracks, so right before Street Justice. And
the transition on the original album, the transition from Street Justice to I Wanna Rock was like super quiet to D. Snyder just screaming in your ears like instantly, dude. It scared the. It scared the crap out of me.
I got through the first 4 songs, and at max volume, it was really, really bad. But when you go to the remastered, I gave it a 8 out of 10. Absolutely 100% better. I'm so glad that I said something, because Dave told me about this remastered version, and then he put it into the group. It just, I don't even know. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know how much it would have affected my final grade score for this album.
I think it would have.
But I can tell you, it would have been at least a full point to a 1.5 lower.
Production-wise, I split the difference. The original was rough. The new one was better. I gave this a 5.5. It's fine. Jonah, what'd you have?
I'm right there with Dave and Jason. I gave it an 8 as well. Right out the gate, when Stay Hungry starts, the guitars are solid, the Bix is solid, the drums and the vocals are solid. It's what I listen for when I hear when I'm listening to an album, like the levels and all that. This is basically what I'm looking for. So I gave it an 8.
All right, let's get into the top tracks here. Jonah, what'd you have for your top tracks?
So unsurprisingly, the hits are my favorite ones, especially because I have, kind of a nostalgic attachment to them. So, number 3 is going to be Stay Hungry for me. super solid opener. Comes screaming out the gate. Like I said, the mix on that's really good. It hooked me right away. I think we all had a similar experience with that. Number 2, We're Not Gonna Take It. I was cleaning the house today and I had it blasting, and like the whole time I'm just like fist pumping while I'm cleaning my damn apartment. I'm like, yeah, we live in a society. We're not gonna take it anymore. I gotta clean my damn apartment. Anyway, and then number 1 for me is gonna be Burn in Hell. I think that song
Wow,
is
1, 2,
really
3, huh?
fun. I think that's yeah. The top 3 tracks in that order: Stay Hungry, We're Not Gonna Take It, and Burn in Hell. Yeah, I think
Jonah,
the song
did
is
you,
super
did you
solid.
listen to the whole record?
Yeah, or did you
Yes,
just
I
stop
did.
there?
You just
Yeah.
stopped at
No,
the
I
first
definitely
3.
did. I definitely did. Again, I have a somewhat a nostalgic attachment to that song, but I do think it's actually a really good song. It has kind of that classic, old school, kind of evil heavy metal feel.
Oh, dude, I love the
Um,
last minute of that
Yes.
Burn in Hell. So fantastic.
Exactly, and the lyrics, may not be overly complicated, but like his what's that called, the way he speaks the
melody?
lyrics or sings the lyrics, not the melody specifically, the like the
Cadence?
rhythm of the way
The
he
syn-
sings,
Yeah.
the syncopation.
cadence, that's the word I'm looking for.
Dude,
The cadence of the singing and the syncopation with the music, it
Yeah.
really gets me going.
that's
So
what me with I Want to Rock. His
Mhm,
verses are just fucking fantastic.
Hell, we
yeah, for
ruined it.
sure.
We have to
All
ruin
right,
it.
Jason, what's your top tracks?
All right, so I'm gonna give a I'm gonna give a I don't care. I'm gonna give
I know.
a honorable mention to The Beast.
Yeah.
Solid. It was one of the first songs where I thought it was going to be a skipper, just the way that it opens, and then once the actual like the pre-chorus chorus starts up, and then the song actually gets into the meat of it, it's a banger. I actually went kind of against the grain here, although I do feel like these are all strong songs. Is my top 3, but my number 3 is "Don't Let Me Down." My number 2 is "I Want to Rock," which is a timeless classic. And my number 1 song, and it's not even close. A song I'd never even heard of until I listened to this is "The Price."
Oh,
Yeah. I'll go next because I have the same 3 songs in not the same order as Jason.
Smart man.
So I agree with Jason. I think this record is really, really strong. But my honorable mention, no one's talked about it, so it makes me worried that somebody's gonna have it in their cut list. But my honorable mention is gonna be Captain Howdy. I just like the way that song flows. I like the cut of that song's jib. I don't know why. I just do. My number 3 is "I Want to Rock." Just iconic song. I love the guitar solo. I love the whole spiel. I mean, I try to sing the verse and I just completely I bungle through that thing so hard. Even with the lyrics in front of me, I just can't seem to get it. My number 2 is "Don't Let Me Down." Great new wave British heavy metal track or inspired track. I mean, I don't care if people disagree, whatever. Like, I think you could easily throw that song on an Iron Maiden album, and I don't think anyone would bat an eye, assuming Bruce Dickinson was singing it. I think people would just assume it's Maiden. And then number 1, I agree with you, Jason. I think it's not close. It's "The Price." That was my surprise favorite song, and it was pretty much after the first listen. I was like, oh, this song is special for me.
Bro, that's the same thing for me. When I listened to it the first time, I was like, what is this?
Like, that immediately came out the gate, and it never wasn't my favorite song. So good. Loved it.
Captain Howdy and "The Price." Huh? Those are my 2 cuts. All right. So for me, for my top tracks here, honorable mention, I got "The Beast." Jason, good call on that. Great song. I love the whole rhythm of that song. Number 3, "I Want to Rock." I think that is, and I think kind of where we can all have it on our list here. I think it's the better of the 2 songs for sure.
Of the
Number 2 for me,
hits.
yeah, the 2 main hits. Number 2 for me, "Stay Hungry." great opening track. Love the I love the chorus, melodies, and everything. And number one, and this was my favorite song from the first time I heard it, was "Don't Let Me Down." I was just
Great.
like, I was shocked when I heard this song. This is the song that I was like, I can't believe Twisted Sister wrote this song. Like the Twisted Sister that I have in my mind wrote this, and it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't compute, but dude, great song. So next segment here, this is where we like to do our album cuts, and the idea behind this segment is we know that all the great metal albums out there only have 8 songs on them. And so every time we do a show here, if we have an album that has more than 8, then we got to cut it down to get the best 8 tracks. As we said, we are actually using the 40-year remastered version of this one. So this album has 10 tracks on it, so we must cut 2. I'll go first. As I said earlier, I do have Captain Howdy and The Price. I just think those songs are absolutely fantastic, and I would never cut those songs.
I knew it. I knew it.
Yeah. Look, the cuts, while these cuts were easy, for me, I'm not saying they're bad songs by any means, but SMF is absolutely a skipper. I don't particularly care for this song. It's not bad. I'd listen to it if it came on, but if this song wasn't on the album, it'd be better. And then I'm cutting the second half of the original Horatoria track, Street Justice. And that's a tougher cut. Like I think it's a good song. That's not one I would skip. It's not one I would normally cut, but the rest of the album has great songs on it, man. So, but SMF was probably an easy cut.
Josh, you're incredibly intelligent. I'll go next. Those are the 2 correct tracks to cut. And I'll completely agree with you. Street Justice, not a song I would cut if it were actually combined on this version like it was in the original. But if it has to go, it has to go. SMF, I probably will never listen to that song again voluntarily. So I could just completely do without it.
Dave, do you think everybody's going to know that was going to be like a really bad edit when you came right back into your part of the explanation there? Okay,
yeah,
good.
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
Jason, what you got for your cuts?
All right, so y'all are almost smart. Almost. I mean, but we're right there. We're right on the cusp. SMF, easy cut. Only skipper on the album. It is really the only song that when it comes on, you're just like, this just does not belong on this album. Like it is night and day. Like you listen to this whole album and then that comes on and you're like, is this an extra track, a bonus track? No, it's not. But it does not deserve to be on this album. And you guys almost nailed it, but you got the wrong part of the 2-part song.
No, I didn't.
Captain Howdy is my second cut.
Bro,
wow.
That's a piss poor take.
And it's not because I don't like the song. It's just because I actually like Street Justice a lot more. And it was a tough cut, similar to what you guys were talking about earlier.
It's a tough cut because you picked the wrong track. That's why.
No,
made
no,
it tough
it's
for
not.
yourself.
No, I didn't. Go ahead, Jonah.
Go ahead, Jonah.
Jonah, give
All right,
us some justice and pick the correct 2 tracks here.
So obviously Jason's wrong, and Street Justice is very much the weaker of those 2 in that duology for me. It's not a bad song. I don't think it's a bad song, but it's not as memorable.
I like the message of Street Justice songs.
Sure. No, absolutely. But I do think it's the weaker of the 2. So that one gets cut for me. Man, I feel like you guys are sleeping on SMF a little bit. There's a live version that I listen to that, it's a little bit harder, a little bit faster. I think it's actually a pretty good song. Obviously the album version is what it is, but we're not going to bring in the whole live track discussion like you guys have done in the past.
Confirmed. Jonah likes it harder and faster.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, no, guilty as charged. Anyway, so I think y'all are sleeping on that track. I don't think it deserves to be cut. But my hot take for my other cut.
It's going to be, we're not going to take it.
It's a song that I think is good. I don't think it's great. And I don't think it's not a bad song, but I don't think it vibed with me, especially given how good the rest of the album is. And that's going to be The Price.
Oh, wow. You're
No.
fired.
Again, it's not a bad song, but for my dollar, okay, the way the rest of the album flows, and we can maybe get into it when we talk about track order and listing.
Go ahead
But
and go right into it.
that one didn't quite vibe with me.
Jonah,
You
you let me down, and you're not supposed to let me down.
Well,
Just-
sorry, but
Jonah deserves the
that's
street justice. Just put
that's
him in
my
the
other
comments.
cut. Look, I'm not going to take it anymore. All right.
Look, dude, I'm gonna need you to burn in hell.
God damn.
Because we're not
Look,
going
at
to
least
take
I
it
s-
anymore.
At least I stay hungry. All right. All right.
There you
Anyway,
go.
we can get into track order listing.
Go for
Go
it.
ahead.
I think overall the track listing and order is pretty solid. I guess to be fair, if you need something to break up the high energy of I Want to Rock, putting the price there is a good idea. But I think overall the album flows pretty well. For me, at least, it's a little front heavy given which songs are my favorite. But I think that works in its favor for casual listening. Maybe not so much for like if you're sitting down and studying it and taking notes like I did today. But overall, I thought it flowed pretty well. So I gave it a 7.2 for track order and
All right.
listing.
Hey, that's pretty close to the right score, Jonah. I gave it a 7.1. I did knock off points just because the last song being really probably the biggest skipper of the album. It just can't be that way, man. That needs to be like the fifth song, and you can end with like "Don't Let Me Down" or something like that. Like you need a strong closer. So that's really my only knock on it, but that's a pretty big knock. So I'm gonna take it at 7.1.
Man, I went in the complete opposite direction as you, Josh. Sorry, we're gonna have to disagree again here. I actually don't mind it when either the first or the last song is a skipper, because then I just either skip the first song and I'm good to go, or I just don't listen when the last song comes on and I'm good.
Yeah, but wouldn't you rather like have the finality of the last song ending on a solid?
Well,
Like-
see, what you do is
Like
you make
do
a
the same-
playlist and then you just make the album without that song, and
I
then
know,
it
but that
ends
goes
on the
against-
beast.
Dave, this is your category. This category only exists because of the way you listen to albums. I feel like what you're doing is then you're just making a list of the way I would do a record.
No. What I'm saying is I just stop listening after the beast, and I'm good. Like the beast is a good closer. I'm done with it. So
But you have to knock the album because you have to do that.
Well,
you have
yeah,
to knock the track listing.
I went with an 8, and that's not a perfect track listing. Okay, I do think Street Justice. It's a little. It's not as strong. And so it does kind of hurt it a tiny bit. But otherwise good. I think SMF, being the ending track, not a huge knock for me.
All right, I'm right there in the middle, but I'm kind of like closer to you and Jonah, Josh. I gave it a 7.5. The reason being is exactly what you said. Closing with the easiest skipper. From what I understand, I guess the SMF is a fan club
Yes.
of Twisted Sister, so I'm guessing this is more of a shout out to them. But
Good. Do it in the middle of the album.
Yeah, and my other problem is that maybe this is hot takey, but my third lowest rated score on any of these songs is the opener, "Stay Hungry." So for me, even though I like "Stay Hungry," for me, just the way based on how I score things, two of the lowest rated songs on the album for me are the bookends. And so I just can't go above 7.5 when you have an issue like that. Everything in between is solid, even though I said I would cut Captain Howdy. I don't dislike it. But for my taste and the way that I score things, if you're bookended by songs that I wouldn't mind not listening to, then you're going to have to get some points deducted. So I gave it a 7.5.
You just showed the world how dumb you are by having "Stay Hungry" as the third lowest rated song. Get out of here with that. That means that what you're telling me is that was one song away from being cut.
Yeah.
That's your cut runner up.
But that song still got a 7.1 for me.
God, that's way too low. You're stupid. All right, hey, we're moving into the last category here. This is where we like to give our score for the record. And just to give you some context on how we score albums, for a lot of folks out there, a 7 would be an average score. Well, for us, it's a 5. So anything that's 4.9 and below is various levels of we would not recommend the album. Anything 5 and above is various levels of we would recommend it. And 9 to 10 is basically all-time classic status.
Who's going to give it the lowest score?
I'm thinking here. Dave, go first. I think you're still gonna. While you like this record, I think you're gonna give it a low score.
We'll see. So I kind of say this little spiel on the last few reviews I do. I do think it helps people understand where my score is coming from. So I do like this record, but the kind of the benchmark or the mark that really, for me, the watermark that I ask myself ultimately is it does it get into the 8s or above, right? I reserve scores like that for albums that are going to be in my regular rotation at minimum in the immediate future, if not for longer, right? And I did toy with it for a little bit, but ultimately I landed on a 7.8. I think it's a very, very strong album. It is one that I will revisit from time to time. And I was very, very surprised with how much I enjoyed this record. I think it's a strong record. It does make me slightly curious about some other Twisted Sister albums, although just from a cursory look at the reviews for their other albums, this does seem to be the clear cut highest rated. So but let us know in the comments if there are other records from them that maybe we should listen to, at least in our own time, right? If not a formal review.
Yeah. If Dave's there, then I think we're all going to be within, like, very close to each other. Jason, what you got?
This album is super solid. It blew away all my expectations. If we had another week, another 2 weeks, I could see the score going higher. My biggest hurdle here was going against Wasp.
Yeah.
I believe I gave Wasp an 8.0, right?
Yes, you did.
And I think
You want to change that?
No, I think right now, I think this is just below Wasp.
That's kind of where I was
But
at.
I think if I listen to this album longer, it might go higher. But Dave, you're a smart man. I gave it a 7.8.
All right. Jonah, what you got?
So spoiler, they weren't the lowest score, but they're not far off.
Wow.
Not far off at all. I'm gonna disagree with Wasp. I just looked, I gave Wasp a 6.9. I think this is better than Wasp. And I think it's more consistent with like the tone and the quality, obviously with the remaster. And man, I really like Dee Snider's vocals and just the vibe of the whole album, because it's not, even though it's hair metal or even though it's classified as hair or glam, it's not like a super party album, which is usually a turnoff for me. I don't remember who said it earlier, but I feel like this album definitely has more to say than just we're here for a good time, which I really appreciate. So anyway, I ended up giving it a 7.7.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, I was right. We are all incredibly close. This is probably the closest spread that we're all going to have on a record, maybe ever. I don't know. I look, not to beat this to death. I thought it was a great record. I had a good time with it. I've kind of Dave has kind of worn me down over time, talking about like using 8 as like that threshold for like, is this an album that I'm going to listen to again for fun, like down the line, like trying to break up the monotony of the crap that we're listening to from week to week sometimes. And you guys, I could tell you wanted to do it, but you weren't man enough to do it. You weren't man enough to pull the trigger to give it a full blown 8, but I was. I put it as an 8 right on the dot.
Wow.
Yeah. I will tell you, I did toy with an 8. I was kind of right there, and I did go a little conservative and dropping it down to a 7.8. I went back and looked at some other scores I had other scores I had given other albums, and it was right there. So we're at a 7.83. average. I agree with you, Josh. I don't foresee us ever, no matter what makeup of 4 people we have, ever being this close. So yeah, we were all feeling this record. 7.8.
Twisted Sister brought us together.
It did.
Yeah.
How about that, huh?
It is the highest rated hair metal album we've done so far. So for us, that's considered an A
As it should be.
tier. And I will read what a 7 for us is, even though it is close to an 8. I'll read what a 7 is. So we have that categorized as good, worth listening to. A 7 is solid, enjoyable, and well made. The album has strong tracks and likely showcases creativity or skill. Though it may have some filler or uneven spots, it's definitely worth listening to for fans of the artist or genre.
I'll tell you what,
Awesome.
I don't think I would have given this above a 7 on the original production. If we would have had to have continued down that path, I'm not sure I would have gotten over a 7.
I don't know. I don't think the production was bad enough for me to for it to really impact my score. It was more of a minor nuisance than anything else. I mean, it's not like it's killing is my business level of bad.
Comparison?
Production.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like where it's unlistenable. It was just bad.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah. Well, hey, if you guys also thought this video was unlistenable, go ahead and hit the like, hit the subscribe. We're putting out weekly metal content right now. We got metal reactions, metal reviews, metal time machines, metal brackets, and all kinds of other cool stuff. And hey, in the meantime, live long and prosper.
Take it easy, everybody.
Later.
Peace.